guys, we're back with another episode of the BYF podcast. As you may remember, my name is Anya.
I'm Sabrina.
I'm Azul.
Chance Success is a Stanford affiliated program that works with schools to transform the student experience to make school more engaging and motivate students. And today we are interviewing the program director, Ken Cawkwell. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Sabrina, do you want to start us off?
Okay, so we wanted to ask you, what do you think are the biggest problems with the modern day education system, and is this what influenced you to join Challenge Success?
That's a great question, Sabrina. Yeah, some of the biggest problems. Well, what we know, especially with our research at Challenge Success, I mean, we've been around, as you've probably seen from our work, for about 20 years now. And what we know is the biggest problems is our mission, that not enough kids are having their well-being being met in school. They're not feeling a deep level of belonging with others in school, including not just peers, but also adults. And they're also not feeling that high level of engagement. And so in terms of really thinking about our mission and work, it's to disrupt the things, the systems, the policies that are not contributing to higher levels of well-being, belonging, and engagement for all students.
Yeah.
How do you think that schools can shed a brighter light on youth mental health?
Great. Yeah. So youth mental health is one of the core components that we started with our research, just understanding the burnout. And as you may have known, like much of our work was founded through the research of Dr. Denise Pope and her work with schools to just better understand the student experience. And what we found was students were completely burned out. They were overloaded with work from school. They were overloaded with extracurriculars after school, and then also things that they wanted to do to support families, like chores. And then they had barely enough time for their own time to relax, connect with peers, sleep. So some of the things that we really try to do to promote better mental health, physical health, just overall well-being, which also includes emotional health, is one, to first center the students. We really want to listen to the students, like what will work best for you? What do you know works best for you as you manage the daily stressors of school and life? Because we know stress is a normal part of life. And how will you know if your stress is like just a little bit like too much to handle? And what are the strategies that can either advocate for or do for yourself? So with that said, Azor, like some of the things that we mention, 100% always, we always say PDF. And so PDF stands for playtime, downtime, family time. And you can find a lot of that on our website. We promote that not only for high schoolers, but all the way down to elementaries. We know that starts there. So with playtime, it's really important that any young adult, including adults, have time to just play and have joy and do things that they're passionate about and really be able to fold that in to their schedule, whether it's daily or weekly. We encourage that at home and at school. Our school fostering ways where students are really being able to play and learn through play. The other component is downtime. So that includes sleep, really ensuring that students are getting the maximum amount of sleep that the National Association of Sleep, like that they recommend. And for, secondary, that's about 9 hours a night. And so thinking about that, like, well, what does your schedule look like? Do you get 9 hours of sleep a night? And we know, sleep is such an important piece to our health. So that's like one component that a lot of schools like to attend to. They do things like a sleep campaign or like a sleep week where they really try to promote healthy sleep habits. And the last one with the F is family time. So family is, whatever you make of it, could be a community-based organization or your family unit in itself, or just like peers that you call family here. But we really recommend 25 minutes, 5 days a week of family time. And we know that connection with others, that relationship or mentorship, that leads to so much of higher levels of well-being. So I would say PDF, Azura, to your question, is one of the biggest things that we recommend to schools, along with other policies and practices, like I said, like sleep campaign and other things around that nature.
And for schools specifically, how do you think that we could strengthen the sense of community?
Yes. So, oh my gosh, there's so many things that schools specifically can do to strengthen community and belonging. Many of the things that I'm like recommending are on our space framework, which you can also find on our website. And particularly with community and belonging, that is like interwoven throughout every part of the day at school. And so from the start of the day, like thinking about ways that young people and adults are being welcomed into the school spaces. Thinking about ways where the learning environment cultivates that feeling of belonging. Do students have their artwork up? Are there shared values up? What are the ways where like joy and connection community are even on the walls? So you just feel it when you walk in. The other components are like in your schedule, are there intentional moments, like maybe advisory, where students are given opportunities to meet and connect with one another and just engage in like deeper levels of conversation, just check in with one another. I've seen things like circles done during advisory time. Do either of you do, or any of you done?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like, and so I don't know how that's felt for you, but that sense, that ritual, I've seen just such powerful storytelling come from there, and empathy building and understanding. Whereas like if you just came into the day and you just went straight to, getting into a test or like the content area, not taking time to connect, we have found that like when students don't have that level of connection throughout the day or week, like their level of engagement in academics, it suffers. They're not as joyfully engaged in that. So to kind of like summarize and repeat, it starts from the start of the day. How are you connecting and setting intentionality to build belonging right when students step into your school space? How are you setting those things within your schedule so it's happening throughout? And also, how are you doing that in your curriculum? Are you making sure that what you're sharing and learning really connects with students, their real experiences, their lives, and asking them, like, does this connect with you? Is this what you're passionate about? When you do that, that opens up space for students to say, look, I really love, I don't know, for example, like I love interior design. And this other student might say the same thing. And you can learn maybe some mathematics around interior design, so just thinking about, or the history, like whatever you would have it. So there's so many ways where you can build connection and belonging. And above all, it's about being intentional. You really need to be thoughtful and make space for that. And the last thing I always say is you send to the students. What do the students say that will bring them deeper levels of connection belonging?
But like, what does challenge success do when like challenge success works with schools?
Thanks for asking that question. So you might know this is about my third year with Challenge Success, and we've been around for a while. And we do partner with schools in a variety of ways. Our deepest level of partnership is through like a year to multi-year, like community-driven approach. And so what that entails are getting a team of people who are really passionate about the work of improving well-being, ball engagement, and centering student voice in that process. So we have maybe a team of 10, including students and adults all together and family members, not just educators. So it's really an all-inclusive space where diverse perspectives can really come together to think through how can we improve school. And so in that component, we work with that team to look at the student voice data that comes through a big survey that's connected through our Stanford graduate school. And we go through a change process. We really think about what that improvement journey will look like to make the school a better experience, to build more connection, to going back to your question, Azura, like what are the things we can do better? And that team tries it on. They're like, okay, everybody to, like maybe no cell phones during lunch. Maybe that's the thing. Like we want to build connection by like, hey, when you're at lunch, like we're all in it together and we're gonna put the phones away so we can really talk to one another versus talking through text. Great, let's try that maybe for a week or 2 weeks and then get a sense like, how did that feel? Did we learn something new about someone? Did we meet a new friend? Or like, just getting a better sense of that. So that's one way we partner with schools, Anya, is like through this year-long or multi-year approach. We also support schools, not in like in a lighter touch area where we just engage in workshops, supporting families with parent education to better understand ways at home that they can reduce stress, that they can, reduce possibilities of burnout, just kind of supporting the like home and school practices so they're aligned. We also provide supports for leaders through a leadership consultation. So we know a lot of, directors, principals, heads of schools, sometimes it can
Mm.
be an isolating role, just being that
Mhm.
one person. So we provide a lot of thought partnership there to help them think through ways where they can move change in their school. And having someone connected to, our most up-to-date research and evidence around best practice that can hopefully provide them some more perspective and meat to advocate for some new ways of doing things. And then the last thing I'll say is like one of the biggest services we offer that many of schools come to, not just in the US, but also internationally, is our survey. So as I mentioned before, in our school partnership, the one that we do year-long and multi-year, they take our survey. That's something that like many of our schools just take because they want to know what's happening. And in particular, well-being, well engagement. And in that survey, what's really cool is it shows the correlation between how students are feeling with engagement and belonging or well-being and engagement, etc. So you can see like if students have a higher sense of belonging, what does that mean for their level of engagement?
Mm.
It's kind of fun to look at the cross between those three buckets, and then also just break it apart by grade or race, ethnicity, anything that's on top for schools that they really want to explore deeper.
No, I think my school does something like that too. Like once a year, we have a survey. Who knows? Maybe they partner with Challenge Success, but once a year they do a survey where they like ask everyone what we can do to sort of improve like the schools or like what bad experiences we might have had or what works. And
Yeah, we do
oh
that as
yeah,
well.
Do
who
you
knows?
think that like connection with students is a fundamental part of like helping them increase their engagement within the entire school day?
100%. And that's my core why. Like when you ask that question, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Like
Yeah.
I got into being an educator because of my love for students and feeling like when I was in school, I didn't have a voice. And it's so important. I just feel like for adults, schooling is different than it was when I was in school. And so the more we can send her the voices of our youth to better understand what's working and what's not working, then we're going to have real feedback versus, it's just like designing for students without really understanding what's at the root of the issue. So I would say instead of designing for, we need to design with. We need to design with students. If students can't be at the table, which they should be at the table, but if they're not able to be in the room or at the table during the conversation, how are we ensuring that whatever decision we're making, we're going out and getting the feedback. We're making sure that the decision is informed by student data, like a survey. So 100% to your question, Zara, is students must always be at the center of everything we're doing. And one of the things that Challenge Success we also do, which I love, is we have our own student advisory council. So right now we have 16 students. They're our council, just like we have an advisory board and board members. Those students counsel us. And so we have monthly meetings with them and they give us feedback on, our communications, our approach. They give us input on our conferences. So they're also developing their own projects, like podcasts, like what you're all doing to share the story. So all that to say is like, there's so much power in what you all do. And if people aren't centering student voice, they are not doing it right. um, and they need to just reevaluate their theory of action.
I know a lot of people sort of view success in like a traditional sort of way, but how would you and like how do you think Challenge Success aims to redefine it?
Question, thank you, Anya. So I would say, definitely from Challenge Success, we don't believe in the linear one path to success. In many of our work, we promote that there are many pathways to success. And success is how you define it. So when I think about success in schools, that's something that then I then like to ask the student and the community, what does that mean to you? And how do you define success? And then let's work together to think through how we can, build some pathways and opportunities towards that. And also knowing like success, once again, is not linear. So there's going to be ups and downs, and that's a natural part of life. And when challenges occur or there's obstacles, like what do we do when those things happen? And that's all a part of moving towards success, is how we overcome and persevere and build our own resilience and grit through all that. So for challenge success, we really want for every student to have their definition of success be honored and seen as a value. And we want to support every student in their own pathway and journey to meeting what they define or their family together as a unit define as success. For me, my own definition of success in schools is that schools are a place where students are seen, they're valued, they're loved, where they have just an abundance of joy, and they are able to contribute to a more loving and just community. That's what I feel like would be a successful educational experience.
What do you do when for example, maybe when you're working with educators or with students and they have like a very like traditional sense of success ingrained into their minds, like go to a good college, get like a job that pays a lot of money, like that sort of one-dimensional way of thinking. What do you do when you're confronting someone like that?
Yeah. So that's that. It's we get that frequently. And I'll just say, even like, I probably have experience with that because I know my mother, like, she's like that person who's like, this is what success looks like you got to drive that way. And so, anyway, just to name like my own experiences are informing some of the ways in which, my values and own definition of success. That being said, when we work with schools, and if there's anyone that we meet in particular that might have a more linear definition of success, we really try to unpack that through active reflection. So that's the first piece, is like practicing, like, where did what experiences led you to define that? Let's start understanding that. And then also then to start to empathize. If it's an adult who has a child, we ask like, well, what are the things that you really hope your child is experiencing 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line? Like what are the things that you're really hoping for? And we hear a lot around like having great relationships or, being healthy, things that don't say like money or great colleges. Like it's more around just like being a joyful human being or finding purpose and passion. And that's similar with teachers too. They often say like, we want our students to be contributors to the world or like find a great friend or a good community. And so when we promote that active reflection, then I just put it back on the participants, say like, look what you said. You said these beautiful things like passion and purpose and relationships. And those are way different than like, the most prestigious college and like the most, high earning income in the community. Like, and so that's just like a really easy entry point to start then unpacking like, what is helping to or contributing to our definition of success. And then we often find it's our society, and the messages we're getting from society, even just like subtle or, messages and conscious messages of what it means to be a successful person in this world. And that often, it doesn't align with like our own like heart values that we really want. So to answer your question on it, it's really unpacking a lot of that reflection, as we know we can't shift mindsets and beliefs. We need to start there, and then unpack that in order to shift behaviors.
You're saying that the way we perceive success is influenced a lot by society as well as like our parents. So then do you think it's better to start with students that are younger to like stop that kind of infiltration into their mind so that like, they don't have a defined success kind of thing in their mind? Do you think that there's a specific age that happens and then we can invent that? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we all live in this ecosystem together, whether we're kindergartner and we hear it just subtly through like maybe parents talking, or as a junior and people are like, oh, these are the places I'm applying for college, or, like, and so like, regardless of your age, and there's a lot of studies around like even as a baby, like the subtle message as you're learning from society. So there's just so much in like all of our developmental stages that we're like we're learning so much all the time and listening. And especially, you all know, like I have two girls that are in elementary school and I feel like they're always listening to me. Um, and so I don't know like where it starts exactly or where we should start to make the most difference. But I do know we need to start somewhere. And so the conversation needs to start in the home, I feel, because that's really where so much of us learn about our core values and learn about love and learn about success and learn about failure. Like that's where we learn a lot in our family unit. And so we do work with elementary schools and we often talk to families through one of our workshops called Well Balanced Child around like what does it mean to like have balance and like have well-being and time for family while also you want to provide extracurriculars and you want opportunities. So like we do start that in elementary. And we all like most of our work has been with high school and middle school students. Mostly I think my assessment is because at that point they're like already so overloaded. They're like, wow, we've been in this system for 9+ years and it's just like getting more work on more work and more assessments and it's really the stress. And what we've seen through our survey, we've surveyed all the way down to fourth and fifth grade, is it's interesting we notice like the fourth and fifth graders have a higher level of being able to like feeling confident coping with stress. But then like in the upper grades, they aren't as confident coping with stress. And it's really interesting thinking about like, well, what's happening in the elementary grades that might be different in the high school or like other grades. And so I'm kind of going around different places, Rita, but I don't really know where to start, but I know we need to start somewhere. And I know even as young as, preschool, like kindergarten, there are conversations being had, even if it's not with students, but I know there are some students, if they in elementary school, they're grade A's, B's, C's. Some elementary schools are giving grades still. They might be comparing themselves to other kids at that age. What did you get? you know and if not, maybe the parents are saying, hey, my kid got X, Y, and Z on their grades, what did you get? Or my kid's doing X, Y, and Z extracurricular. And then so it starts to really foster this like, should I be doing that? Should I be doing three extracurriculars? Should what's wrong with my kids not doing X? So anyway, the conversations are already being had. So the more that we can open up, sort of like more being able to open up like people to be vulnerable enough to share like what is it really at the heart of what you value at a younger age, and thinking forward like, once again, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, like what do you hope your child says is true about their schooling or life experiences, and then let's go from there, versus like, oh my gosh, they're in, five extracurriculars and I'm not doing enough, so I need to put them in more. I have a lot of mom friends that are in similar age groups and have these conversations often.
Thank you so much. Azor, Sabrina, do you guys have any other questions?
I just want to know, can you elaborate more on the kind of like differences in the results that you get from the surveys that you take when you compare like elementary grades and high school, and what you think might be the cause of these kind of differences?
Yeah, one thing that like is interesting is thinking about engagement, for example, as a component. With high school students, most high school students are what we call just doing school. And so what that means is like they're just going through the motions. I think it's like a little over, like I think it was like 54, like above 50% of students are going through that's a lot of students just going through the motions of school. So this is middle school, 6th through 8th grade. They have about 34% doing school. Now I can, lower it down to 4th and 5th grade. And then you see, oh my gosh, 20
Wow.
doing school. Isn't that
Wow.
interesting?
That's
Yeah.
wow.
Elementary are fully engaged. What? So what is happening? And this is only for this past year, 24.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So 44% of 4th and 5th graders say they're fully engaged, which is, so there's so much data in here. I mean, I love you asking that question because it gets me kind of giddy, but you can see right away with this this
Yeah.
chart here, how different that is.
But already from fourth and fifth to sixth to eighth, there's like a 14% difference, which
Yeah.
is
Isn't that wild? So then for me with this data, it's like I want to know more and gets me curious. And that's where we get into schools to start asking more questions. What's going on? And we ask teachers, like, let's go shadow a student or follow a middle school student and see what's going on, or maybe do some empathy interviews. Similarly, we have data with like belonging. This is like, so middle school again. This is fourth through eighth grade. So like let's say like this is like how many people have an adult to go to. So on average, let's see, for sixth to eighth grade, there's 76% of people have an adult to go to. And let's see for fourth and fifth. Let's see what. So 85%.
Wow.
oh,
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
So our dashboard, there's just so much in here. I mean, we asked about homework, we asked about stress and health. I mean, there's so much in here. So, so to your like question, I would need more time to like dig into all of the data,
No, of course, yeah,
um,
yeah.
but it's fast, even just the ones I just shared with you.
Yeah.
Like fourth and fifth graders are having a better experience. They have more belonging and they're more engaged and they're more confident with coping with stress. So it just begs to wonder like what's happening in this space.
Wait, yeah, I had no idea too that the difference was going to be so like
Stalk, yeah.
yeah, exactly. It was so huge.
Oh,
But
Oh,
do
you
you think it
continue, you
has
continue.
something to do with the ways that kind of things are displayed within the school, like the physical state of the school? Do you think that has a big part to do with like happiness?
Yeah, and let me clarify, when you say like where how things are displayed, like do you mean like literally
Like
display?
literally walls of just artwork or kind of or maybe just expressions of kind of like core school values.
In my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
There's so much like there's a book called The Third Teacher, and it's all about like how your learning environment impacts the way you feel. I mean, even not in school, like I'm sure you all like if you walked into like a really cool birthday party or like something like, or you walk in a movie theater, like it sets the tone for how you feel,
Yeah.
or you're like
absolutely, yeah.
like how
Yeah.
to connect with people, or like the messages on the wall. Like I know for me, like I have like this really amazing postcard that one of my friends gave me, and it's called like and so like
Oh,
affirmations up in my room. And so think about like teachers that have like something that says women are perfect, or like something that says something positive, like that makes an impact on how we feel mentally, how we feel in terms of connection. One thing that like I ask a lot of teachers to do is I like reflection a lot, but I ask them to like do a little journey mapping to unpack like where they feel belonging, and literally put that up next to their desk so other kids can see it, so their kids can see it. Or maybe if they have like an affirmation wall, like put it up, put pictures of their family or their friends, like, and so that you can also then see the human side of your
yeah.
so yeah, in terms of like does the environment impact those things? I think 100% yes. I also know in a lot of elementary schools, typically the structure is they have one teacher, maybe two in the whole day. Maybe it's like one core teacher and a helper teacher. And so when you think about like that one stat on go to adult, how different that was,
Yeah.
that makes me wonder like, hey, well, in middle school, sometimes then they have multiple teachers in a day. So does that impact? Or is it like if you have more teachers, you feel more connected? I don't know. There's a lot of questions, but once again, it's like also every community is different, so what works for one community might not work for another, and that's what makes things really fun and exciting to just get into a school and really investigate and explore like what is it in this community that will really bring amongst more connection or better mental health.
So how do you think, because obviously like you can have affirmations like on your desk and things, and you can have a really decorative like school environment, but as a child, if you can't control the way your home environment is, what do you think like children can do, and what strategies can we sort of use to help that?
great question. So, I mean, that's one of the things where we think about like what are the ways in which like you are all actively finding the things that bring you joy and finding the things that help you actively cope with stress. What I try to encourage people to do, people, not just educators and families, and students in our workshops to do is really unpack and think about what are the things that they might do for themselves in and outside of school. So, like, even if, for example, I like what you said, if it's happening at school, but it's not happening at home, what are the things that are happening at school that are really helping you thrive and feel joy? And how can you bring some of that, a little bit of that, into a home environment and vice versa? What are the things that are helping you thrive at home? And how might you bring a little bit of that into your school? And whether it's like within your control, I know that I can open up my backpack and have this postcard because I know this postcard brings me joy. Or like my daughter, she painted me this like watermelon.
That's so cute.
That's so cute.
That brings me fun. Now we do also, as I mentioned before, do parent education because we want to make sure that families understand ways to better support their child at home and align that with what's happening at school. But to your question, there's so much I feel like that people in our society, we point to individuals, like that student's not doing it, or that parent, or that teacher. And what I really want at Challenge Success, we want people to step back and look at the system and look at what's happening in the school as a whole for all, and not just pointing blame at individuals, because that's not going to solve, the problems. So I know when I'm naming this, I'm saying like, well, what can we do as individuals, within the system? But really to get at the root of the issue, we need to really look at the system. So for students that are at home and there are things just outside of their control, find things that you can control, even if it's just the little things. Find ways where you can advocate for more that you need. And then are there things like and other community units, like neighbors, or if there's like a community organization or a volunteer group or something like this, like what you're all doing, that you can find and create, just create it and bring the people that will bring you joy, so that you can have that family unit.
Okay.
Great.
Does anyone have any more questions or
I don't think so. But thank you so much. This was very insightful. And especially like when you showed us the data and everything, like I had no
yeah, it's so
idea.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thanks for taking the time to listen to me. I hope I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.